Well, hello all there. JPBII here. It's been a long time, but that's okay. We're here today. And we're starting a little bit of a new series called the Patreon Interviews. Stay tuned. Well, hello, all you YouTubers, Facebookers, and all other onlookers. JPBII here, aka Jimmy P. Brown II, coming at you with a little bit of a new video series. It might be a full series, it might be just one or two videos, maybe three, maybe four. It all depends on what questions are being asked by my patrons. So, after a while, if you're part of my Patreon, you get personal podcasts from me from time to time. At least try once to twice a month. But I express sometimes a little bit of the frustration with when I do interviews and when I do podcasts that it tends to be the same questions over and over and over. And sometimes that's a little bit of a frustration. And at one point I thought, let me ask my patrons, because they have had great questions in the past. And so maybe they'll be able to provide some cool questions for us. And then we decided, let's go ahead and make this an actual YouTube video series. So a lot of questions did roll in. I don't know enough to constitute a whole series themselves, but certainly enough to do a couple of videos worth. So that's what we're going to start with today. Obviously, I want to keep these videos short and sweet, as short as sweet as possible. With me, I'm a blabbermouth and I do love to talk. So we're going to go ahead and just dive right in. But before we do, let me encourage you to go ahead and hit that like button. And if you would be so kind, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm not asking you to be a paid member or anything like that. Just subscribe and help this channel get some views. That'd be great. I'd really appreciate it. And also to let you know, a couple of tidbits. Deliverance, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, some band called Deliverance. We are playing some shows coming up. So for all news and tidbits on that, please visit us at www.deliverance23.com. And that'll give you all the scope. We're playing Dundee, Illinois in May, and also in Versailles, Ohio at the BMI Event Center with Disciple. So those are going to be some cool shows. You want to make sure to visit that. And also wanted to give you guys something really cool that I thought was great before we dive right in. Looks like that Matt Hunt over at Retroactive is doing a couple of reissues on vinyl for the first time. And one of them is the Assimilation album. Pull it up on your screen right there. It's in green vinyl. These are limited runs, limited editions, so you want to definitely pick yours up. And then the other one near and dear to my heart is the Learn album, first time on vinyl. And it actually has a really cool looking orange vinyl. Not unlike the orange that's happening, at least that I could see on my screen. It's happening right now. But that orange vinyl for the Learn album. I thought just keeping it black because it's a pretty somber record. But it is what it is. But the links are in the description if you want to check them out. But they are limited run edition, so go and get yours today over at boonsoverstock.com. Okay, that said, let's get into the questions. So the first set of questions, I did them by the order of received. And like I said, I'm going to keep a close view on the time because we don't want these videos to run. And one patron decided to send me like 26 questions. So, but that's okay. The more questions, the better. But he's probably going to get his own episode altogether. But we are starting with patron James Cleveland. He is sent in some questions. So I'll read the question, flash them up on the screen, and then I'll just give my answer. So his first question is, I really enjoy Eraserhead's first release. Any time frame for a follow-up? Okay, that's a good question. Let me take a swig of this delicious coffee from a place called Summer Moon in Texas, in Austin, Texas. That's where they originate. And boy, it's my favorite coffee. I won't drink any other except that. I mean, unless I'm out and about. You know, we don't have Summer Moon cafes here in Las Vegas. Not yet, but maybe one day. Who knows? But it's a fantastic coffee. Anywho, Eraserhead. Okay, so Eraserhead itself, everybody thinks that that was like a project name. But if you look really small up on top of the album cover, and I'll flash it on the screen, it says Jimmy P. Brown II and then Eraserhead. So it's just the name of the album. That's just the name. But that was my first official solo release. So it's not a band or a project named Eraserhead. It's just Eraserhead is the name of the album, but it is my first solo release under the name Jimmy P. Brown II. If you're familiar with any of my work, I did a few iterations, so I understand the confusion. I did a project called Fearful Symmetry, another one called Jupiter 6, but they were in essence all my solo albums. I just was putting band monikers for a couple of reasons. One, I don't like the way my name sounds. And when you just put up JPBII, which is JPBII, which are just my initials, you know, it would be kind of hard to sell anything like that. So I just, you know, and then again, always the fear of my name not, you know, attracting too much or having to hear the same thing I've been hearing for, you know, 55 years, you know, James Brown, ha! I feel good, you know, it's just all that. So anywho, I believe I have done some follow-ups, the novella albums, which again, it kind of turned into the same situation. You know, like when Larry, Jim, and Manny, I asked them to join me on the novella project. It's not novella band, it's Jimmy P. Brown II presents novella. Much like Peter Gabriel and the album Us, or the album Up. It's the same idea. But I guess it gets confusing in the titling, and I don't know. But same idea, which kind of has led both Larry and I to kind of adopt the whole novella name, and so we're going to try running with it and see what happens. But yeah, there have been follow-ups to it. If the question was in regards to the players, oh gosh, who knows? You know, man, he's busy doing his thing. He lives in Texas. You know, 2-day drive away, 4-hour flight. And John is kind of MIA. So it's yeah, it's just one of those things. But anything I do under the name Jimmy P. Brown II or JPBII is a follow-up to Eraserhead. So like Always Falling, Nothing, those single releases, that's Jimmy P. Brown II. So it's in essence follow-ups to Eraserhead. So there won't be an Eraserhead 2 or anything like that. So, and the name was, you know, obviously affectionately adapted from the late great David Lynch's film Eraserhead. Okay, so second question. What is a song written by Terry Taylor that you wish you would have written, and why? Wow, that's tough. That's tough. Because all of Terry's material for me is brilliant. It's genius. You know, I always like to say that a lot of players do tend to put out sleeper material, and that includes my favorite artists. So, but yeah, reality. You know, with Terry, I haven't heard a lot of sleeper material, so it's kind of hard to pin down something and say, oh well, that one song, because they're all just so brilliant. But if I did, if I were forced and said, you know, hey, choose that one song. The one song that always comes to mind that everything about the song I love is a song called I'll Get Over It. And it's on the Daniel Amos album Bible Land. And it's a strangely recorded record, noisy. Terry's voice is really ducked way into the back. But there's something special about that song. And then another song off that album called Out in the Cold. Man, when I hear it, get chills thinking about it. It's just good stuff, man. But I don't think I can claim just one Terry Scott Taylor or DA song, which are pretty much synonymous, and say, oh, yeah, I wish I wrote that. Because quite honestly, whenever I cover a Terry song, a DA song, like I did with Sanctuary or Horrendous Disc, I wish I wrote it and I tried to do my own version of it, And in fact, if you're on Patreon, I did a version of I'll Get Over It. So hope that answers that question. What albums of any genre come to mind as just awesome releases that you that would be up on your wall as near perfect releases? Well, again, that's tough. That's a tall order because there's so many things that come to mind. Are Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd, Physical Graffiti, Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy, Led Zeppelin, Bowie, Heroes, Bowie, Hunky Dory, Bowie, Low, lots of Bowie, Van Halen 1, start to finish, absolute perfection. Again, that's a tough and tall order, but they are near perfect releases to me. Permanent Waves, Rush, Signals, Rush. There's just so many good ones, but those are the ones that just popped into my head. So, again, tall order. Let's see here. Next one. What song or album comes to mind that you think should have received more attention? Well, I don't know. I don't know if you're referring to my own work, which I'm going to assume that's probably what you were talking about with my own work. Everybody thinks this is a Starbucks mug. It is not. This is Stardust coffee. Okay. It's hard to praise your own work. Usually when I am done recording a record or some singles or whatever, I won't listen to it for a long time, sometimes years before I even put it on again. And part of it is, you listen to it so much when you're creating it, and then by the end of it, you're just sick of it. So it's hard to, and again, to kind of praise your own work, but, I wish the River Disturbance album, and I know I'm a broken record when it comes when it comes to that record, I am a broken record about it because I just wish it was given more chance. I quote Scott Waters from Ultimatum, who said it was the most underrated record Deliverance ever put out. And he was right. And I really appreciated that he said that because I just didn't understand why people didn't get it. And gosh, I even received a text this morning from a guy named Don Warler. And he sent me a song that was influenced by the River Disturbance album. So all these many moons later, a lot of people do get it. And I just felt that there was a lot there that was ignored, widely ignored in the release year of 1994. But, I'm glad that it does receive attention now. But it would have helped then with sales and, keeping us on the road and all that good stuff. But there you go. So, next question. A favorite song of yours that you don't play live anymore? Ooh. Huh. Again, kind of hard to say, but we never got to play Horrendous Disc live. I really would have loved to have tried to do that, but it's kind of difficult to do without an actual pianist and all that. I loved when we played You Still Smile, but I'm probably going to pull something from River Disturbance, and that's the song Breathing Still. Number one, it comes in at 9 minutes. That's not feasible for an audience to sit through unless they're completely mesmerized by it, like we were as a band at that time. Myself, Manny, Jeff Mason on drums, and Matt Winslow on guitar. When we were playing that song live, we were into it. And that would make the audience into it when we would play it. So they didn't even realize 9 minutes had passed. But that would be really hard now, especially with considering that, that it's because we've had so many members. I've had so many members in Deliverance that whatever members are in at that select moment usually gravitate and like the stuff that they played on. But to get everybody in one assembly, pick and choose from different eras of Deliverance to all agree on and be able to perform and play and correctly play things live. A strange thing about musicians is this: unless you're a studio guy, you're one of those guys that can just, whatever's thrown at you, you play it and you put your all into it. You put your heart, soul, and talent into it and make it your own. That's a rare bird. And I'm telling you, that's a rare bird, including myself. That I'm not one of those guys because I have to like what I'm playing. I have to like the song. It's hence why I don't play in cover bands, because I can't play Sweet Home Alabama and be all into it. I'm going to be, up there just whatever, half-assing it the entire time. And so, I get it, so everybody's got to be into what's going on. And if it's not happening, it's not happening, I think that, doing, I think if it's one song you're looking for, it's probably Breathing Still. I miss playing that live. It's just a fun song and an emotional song, and I liked it, Okay, next question. Who were some of your favorite singers and voices during the 1980s pop scene? Oh, man. That's tough because, I like so many people. And I don't know if necessarily pop era, I know everybody always cites Steve Perry, Journey, and of course, amazing, unbelievable. But I would say pop, I didn't listen to maybe a lot of pop other than Journey. I consider them pop rock or whatever. But in the 80s, man, I just, obviously I was in love with Gary Numan's voice and the appeal of everything Gary Newman, and especially where he went with the electronica thing. But I even loved all the stuff that he started with Tubeway Army and, really dug that dude from Flock of Seagulls. I liked his voice. I liked that band, The Church. And I really dug Peter Murphy, obviously, Bauhaus. One I will mention that probably will shock and surprise, and I don't know, really, honestly, after all these years, if anything I say it should be a shock or surprise, but I was very, very fond of Simon Le Bon. From Duran Duran. Just still to this day, listen to Duran Duran. New, old, doesn't matter. I love Duran Duran. One of my favorite bands. And just love his voice. But, you know, my wife's been listening to John Denver. She's been on a John Denver kick. And, you know, I remember as a kid listening to him, having an album and just, you know, listening to it. And Annie's song would, you know, just bring tears to my eyes. I just, you know, one of those crystal voices that just stand, that's just so pure. And I felt that same way about the Carpenters. I mean, just that voice, you know, that's just so pure, so beautiful. Um, and you know, there's Anne Murray is another one, just one of those pure voices. So yeah, it's hard to really kind of single out and choose, you know. But there are a lot of good singers, a lot of beautiful sounds that were coming out at that time. Okay, next one. Gene Simmons has said that he thinks the last great band has been the Foo Fighters. Who do you think has been the last great band to come out? You know, I mean, in a lot of ways, I think he's right. Foo Fighters is cool. You know, I like them. Um, and they have a lot of great songs. There's no question they write good songs. A good song's a good song. Doesn't matter who's playing it, you know. As long as you got, you know, some good musicians playing it, you know, you should be okay. But, you know, I don't know as far as like that last good band. You know, I mean, that's according to Gene. I mean, there's a lot of great bands out there. I tend to have my own, you know, select cut of music that I listen to on a daily basis, and it is from the 70s mostly, because that's just my preference. Um, but, you know, there's a lot of good stuff. Chairs creaking, I'm not farting. There's a lot of great bands. One band I'm like uber fond of right now, and I'm so glad they're taking off because I started following them when they just came out and it put out an EP and everything else. But now they seem to be doing really well. Is a band called Spirit Box out of Canada. Oh man, absolutely love them. Just something about their lyrical content and their music style, and usually I don't like that growly vocal type thing, but it works. And I really love the guitar player, is choice of chording and all the atmospherical stuff that's happening in the background. It's just really unique to me and really cool. I know in that genre it's pretty normal, a lot of that stuff, but I just like it. I have a hard time adjusting to the 8-string guitar thing, you know, 7/8 string guitar and all that real low stuff, because it doesn't leave room for the bass to really do anything interesting. That's just me. But it still sounds cool. And who knows, maybe I'll end up doing something in that vein. You never know, especially with the next Deliverance album. All right, well, those were the questions that came through from James Cleveland. So the next set, which we're already at 24 minutes, is going to be from my next patron. But again, we're talking 26 questions. So I think I'm going to have to save that for another episode. But let's close this one out with part one of questions from one of my newer patrons. And so glad to have him. His name is Dom. And but he goes by the handle Karate Warrior 2. So, but he's got he says he has a couple questions on here, and there's 4. So let's do it. Let's get to Dom, or Karate Warrior 2. Okay, number 1. Have you ever stopped to think of the imprint and impact you as an artist, solo or band, have left on humans on this planet and will continue to leave for eons to come? P.S. It's a good thing. It's a good thing too, by the way. You know, I never, when first starting to record, I never really considered it. I just was enjoying getting to record on material. But as I started to explore more the artistic route of what we were doing in the studio, then I started to consider the impact and really, really started to more think about, my lyrics and what is it that I'm trying to put out there, and knowing that it can last, knowing that 100 years ago or 100 years from now in the future, that someone can by chance discover in the mountains and mountains and mountains of music, and that maybe they would find something from me and say, what is it? And put it on and say, well, I really dig what this guy's saying. I like his voice. I like the emotion he was putting into what he was doing. And when I started to consider that, then I started to put more thought about it. And from that point forward, and that was in 1992 with the Stave Execution album. So I started to think about it, and I really hope that it does have an impact, and I'm certain that first album, second album, had their impact. But for me, everything from Stave Execution on is mostly what I consider coming from an artistic side of me, and I prefer that. Number 2, do we in the modern world underestimate the value, role of creativity, art in the journey of life, even for regular Joes and not just professional artists? That's a good question, because I think a lot of us do miss the point on some things, and some things do get lost on the general public, and they just look for a beat. I mean, right now, especially in this time, girls have always just wanted something to dance to. Very rarely do you find that one girl that digs into the meat of a song, But and that's just the way, the makeup of a female, but there are guys the same way. All they want to do is bang their head and get into the groove and everything else, but not really know what the process of getting into, and just the way it is, But I guess everybody has to have their own journey, right? Number 3. What's one thing you've learned of in life that you would definitely feel is worth sharing with anyone, apart from Jesus, of course? I've said this before, and I say it again to quote the great Charlie Chaplin. He said, "My only enemy is time." And boy, that's something that more rings true with me with each passing day. And I know a lot of people want to see time as your friend, but I just see time as an enemy, because it just keeps creeping and creeping, and as you get older, faster. So, yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to deal with as you get older, because you start to feel like you lose relevance. And when you start to feel like you're yesterday's news, or you're an archive now, and everything you do is an archive, even when you put it out brand new, it becomes an archive instantly, just because your age, or who you are as an artist. Yeah, it affects you. There's no other way to say it. It affects you. So I would say that what I want to impart: value time, because it's really important. And of course, the last of Dom's questions this round, because he sent more later. And last question: what is your favorite karate martial arts movie? I love that. So obviously, Karate Warrior is into martial arts. So I'm going to have to dig back into the archives for this one. It used to be, when it first came to the States, the labels swapped on these 2 Bruce Lee movies. One being called The Chinese Connection, the other one Fist of Fury, but they were mislabeled. So for years, I knew it as the Chinese Connection, but it was actually Fists of Fury, and now they're labeled correctly. But yeah, man, if I have to choose one movie that I can watch over and over and over, I just love Fists of Fury. I mean, Bruce Lee had his own style, his own vibe, his own thing, and he was just so bad, man. Everything about when he whips out the nunchucks and starts doing, and all the fake noises they had in, and then all the voices are the best. Now you listen to me. I only say once. We are not sick men. It's just great. It's like, why didn't they get more believable voices, translated into English? But nonetheless, it was still cool, man. Just like I said, everything about Bruce Lee for me, man, when he was shot and was done, it sucked because we lost somebody really cool. As far as like current stuff, I haven't paid attention, I couldn't stand that Jean-Claude guy and Steven Seagal. I thought he was kind of cool, but his movies were, his first two movies were pretty cool, but then they were really dorky. After that, just the same movie over and over and over, and but that just happens with every art form, and what it is because you have a studio or you have an audience that expects the same thing over and over and over, and then you want to make sure that they're going to your movie, that they're buying your record, so you end up trying to put out the same thing over and over and over, and you lose artistic credibility, and then you end up becoming a caricature of yourself, and something gets lost, and is what it is. But and I haven't really paid much attention to anything else. I mean, that Jackie Chan was awesome in the Rush Hours, and watching all that, and seeing the gal from Rush Hour 2 in Memoirs and Crouching Tiger and all that. Oh man, awesome stuff. I don't really follow martial arts, so I wouldn't be totally the guy to ask. But just as a guy who does enjoy somewhat of the genre, it's going to be Fists of Fury all the way. Bruce Lee. So there you have it. There you go. Okay, we're going to wrap this up because we are way past time already. And again, I have a zillion things to say, but also I'm very long-winded. So, in fact, when we get to Brendan Stewart with his 26 questions, that might have to be a two-parter. So maybe this is going to be this is going to end up being a series, and just alone to answer Brendan's questions. But anyway, and that's awesome. I'm super happy Brendan sent all those in. But all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe if you would be so kind. And don't forget, if you would like to be a part of the Patreon family, you can get in and you get copies of the everything that I've ever recorded. You end up getting in large Dropbox files. You get links to all this stuff, all these goodies that are just for you guys. And all my new stuff, everything that is coming up, which a new Deliverance album is coming, Novella Part 3 is coming, and Part 4, which is going to end out the novella series, and then it'll be moving into another series. But in other words, I'm trying to keep it going, but I need your help. And I get a lot of patrons that have flown in and flown out. Some for financial reasons, they can't stay, and totally get it. Totally get it, especially if there's stuff going on in your life that you need to tend to more. I totally understand. But remember, just for the price of a cup of coffee, actually less, because, you go to Starbucks, a cup of coffee is $6. So you can join for $5 on my Patreon, and you're lending help to me to continue putting out art. So that way, you're, like I said, it's funny how you get those emails that, you mean everything to me, everything else. And then, how can I stay in touch with what you're doing? And mention Patreon and, that's it. But I've had my loyal patrons for so long, and I hope they can speak well of what I've been able to provide. And we want to up the game this year, and we're going to try to provide more. And hence why I'm doing these on my YouTube channel, so you guys can see all these kind of cool things that you can be a part of and be interactive with me. So, and I'm interactive with all my members. So, would love you to be a part of it. So consider joining at www.patreon.com forward slash JPBII. And don't forget, also go to JPBII.com to stay up with current info on anything meat. And then, of course, www.deliverance23.com to stay on what's current with the big D. And we just hit our 40-year anniversary. We're going to do some shows this year, put out a new record, and it'll be cool. It'll be released on Bones Overstock, which is Retroactive Records. And I've had a long-standing relationship with Matt Hunt forever, and continue working with him on anything the big D. So, all right, guys, you have a wonderful rest of your day and night or morning or whatever it is when you're watching this. And we'll see you on the next round of questions. Peace out.